Welcome to the final showcase of Nobel Peace Prize laureates who are leaders and statesmen from other nations from the period post-1936 till date. All the material here and in the showcase have been compiled from articles and from the information on the Nobel Peace Prize.org website. So the world cares about Peace Prize. That leads on to the question of whether the Peace Prize has any effect on what happens in the world. If the purpose of the Nobel Peace Prize has been to establish peace all over the world, it would have clearly failed. We see at all too frequent intervals how limited the powers are even of the American president, the most powerful man in the world. With that in mind, we can hardly expect the Nobel Peace Prize to play a decisive part in international politics. A determining impact on matters of war and peace would be far too strict a criteria for the importance of the Peace Prize. Even a limited influence on the international politics should be celebrated as a victory for a prize that is awarded only once a year. And I do believe that the Peace Prize does have an influence. Many similar effects can be seen to have resulted from the award of the Peace Prize in 1996 to Bishop Carlos Bello and José Ramos Horta for their struggle for East Timor's right of self-determination. Indonesia's invasion of East Timor in 1975 resulted in the loss of perhaps as many as 200,000 lives of a population of some 700 to 800,000. This was one of the major tragedies of recent decades. And yet, it was gradually being forgotten. Here too, however, the Peace Prize led to closer involvement in the conflict on the part of United Nations and to the modification by the United States and several EU countries of their support for the Indonesian authorities, especially behind the scenes. Some will presumably feel that there is something wrong with a prize which so often proves controversial. A more correct view to take might be that the Peace Prize has its present position partly because the Norwegian Nobel Committee has had the courage to take controversial decisions. So one should not depart from right decisions, even though they are controversial. On the other hand, being controversial can hardly be an end in itself. On 3 occasions, awards were so hotly disputed that members withdrew from the Norwegian Nobel Committee. Certain distinct lines of development can be pointed out in the history of the Peace Prize. Until 1960, with only one exception, Foreign Minister Lamas of Argentina of 1936, the Peace Prize went exclusively to European and North Americans. Since 1960, it has gradually developed into the global prize which it is today, with several laureates from every continent. The future is always difficult to forecast, but I feel quite confident that the Nobel Peace Prize will continue to approach the same problem areas in the 21st century as it tackled in its first 100 years. The connections between the environment and peace look like offering the next area into which the concept of peace will be extended. And no doubt, the prize will continue to be controversial. That is how it will attract attention and thereby secure the best support for work of many different laureates who will win the peace prizes of the future. I would like to take a moment to talk about Mahatma Gandhi, the missing laureate. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi lived between 1869 and 1948, has become the strongest symbol of nonviolence in the 20th century. It is widely held, in retrospect, that the Indian national leader should have been the very man to be selected for the Nobel Peace Prize. He was nominated several times, but was never awarded the prize. Why? Up to 1960, the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded almost exclusively to Europeans and Americans. In retrospect, the horizon of the Norwegian Nobel Committee may seem too narrow. Gandhi was very different from earlier laureates. He was no real politician or proponent of international law, nor primarily a humanitarian relief worker, and not an organizer of international peace congresses. He would have belonged to a new breed of laureates. Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated on 30th January 1948, 2 days before the closing date for that year's Nobel Peace Prize nominations. The committee received 6 letters of nomination naming Gandhi. Nobody had been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize posthumously. But according to the statute of Nobel Foundation in force at that time, the Nobel Prizes could, under certain circumstances, be awarded posthumously. Thus, it was possible to give Gandhi the prize. However, Gandhi did not belong to an organization. He left no property behind and no will. So who should receive the prize money? The director of the Norwegian Nobel Institute asked the Swedish prize awarding institutions for their opinion. The answers were negative. Posthumous awards, they thought, should not take place unless the laureate died after the committee's decision had been made. When the committee, for formal reasons, ended up not making such an award, they decided to reserve the prize, and then 1 year later, not to spend the prize. The prize money for 1948 at all. What many thought should have been Mahatma Gandhi's place on the list of the laureates was silently but respectfully left open. He is often referred to as the missing laureate. On this final day of showcase of Nobel Peace Prize laureates, I invite you to journey into the lives and works of these great Peace Prize winners. I thank you for being part of this Nobel Laureate showcase. I hope that you have been moved and inspired by the words of these individuals and organizations as I have been. There is 120 years of collective wisdom showing us the way to establishing peace on earth. It is now up to us, to each one of us, to step up to the task of taking their work forward. Because this earth is our home, the home of every person and nation with equal rights to live a life of fulfillment in peace. Time for us to be rethinking and learning new strategies from this wisdom and to begin to establish sustainable peace on earth. And it is so.